Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest 20 things you didn't know about video. I'm actually doing this video here live in Las Vegas while I'm here in my hotel. You may hear some background noise. It's mainly because I'm here in the Fremont area, so you may hear some music playing in the background, but if you don't, then everything is a-okay. But for this one, I wanted to go ahead and talk about another cryptid for this playlist, and once again focus on an all-star. It's one that I've mentioned before in the past. Normally, again, I don't really feature things associated with all-stars, in other words, the big name cryptids, but this playlist definitely allows me to go about it in a new way, something that focuses on interesting facts and trivia. So I thought, why not showcase it here for this particular playlist. But as you can see, it's definitely a fan favorite, especially in the Southwest area, the Chupacabra. So I'm going to feature 20 interesting things, facts, trivia associated with this cryptid. Love to hear what your own thoughts and opinions are, and then I'll give my own as well. So without further ado, let's go ahead and let's talk about 20 things you didn't know about the Chupacabra. Number one is this. The literal name of the creature translates to goat sucker. So in other words, the way it's said in Spanish literally translates to goat sucker. This is because obviously the most well-known feature associated with this cryptid is that it likes to kill and then drink the blood of the creature that it hunts. So anything that it's within its, let's say, eyesight, and it takes down an animal, primarily goats, in fact, that's where this creature then eats, not even eats the creature, but actually starts feasting on the blood. That's why it's also known more on the lines of a vampire cryptid, because of this very, very unique feature. But yes, Chupacabra absolutely literally translates to goat sucker. Number two is this. Several interesting physical characteristics of this cryptid are as follows. Number one, it's a canine-like creature. So in other words, either it looks like a dog, or it looks like a wolf, or in some cases a coyote, and then it has this almost reptilian-like skin. More on that here in a minute as to some interesting facts and then also discrepancies associated with this. But this skin also has a dark greenish to maybe blackish hue associated with it, and then along the top of its body, that's where it has a very distinct set of sharp spines or sharp spikes. Some people even call them plumes as well, that run along the back. Now, I don't know if this is more of a defensive or offensive weapon, but otherwise, they definitely help this creature stand out. This creature also has very keen eyesight. That's because of the fact that it's noted of having very large reddish eyes. Those that have seen this Chupacabra in the nighttime notate these very, very large red eyes. And then also it has these very long teeth, including the pronounced set of front teeth, the canines, that allows it to be able to use it for its blood sucking. And then alongside that, it also has some very, very long claws. Number three is this, once again focusing on its physical characteristics. I mentioned earlier that it's almost like your average canine, but for the fact it's actually larger. It tends to be a little bit larger than any of your normal dogs that you come across. For example, if you look at it with its shoulder, so in other words, it's on all fours, and you go about the shoulder height, it's about 3 to 4 feet high right there. That's pretty high in of itself. You can imagine then how much higher the creature gets if it stands on its two legs. So definitely, you know, you're in the vicinity of a Chupacabra, besides all those other physical features, because of the fact that of its sheer size. Number four is this. You'll also know that you're within the vicinity of a Chupacabra because of its pungent odor. The way the story goes, you can smell this creature before you actually see it. It almost has like a rotting smell, like almost like a rotting carcass or something else involving garbage, something along those lines. It's not pleasant, in other words. So if you think you're within the vicinity of a Chupacabra and maybe you wanted to be 100% sure, try to smell the area around you. If there's this pungent odor, then you'll know you're within this vicinity. Number 5 is this. I was talking earlier about the name being goat sucker and then also involving its primary source of food being blood. That's apparently what it solely feasts on, which makes it very, very unique within the animal kingdom. So in other words, rather than, let's say, killing an animal and then eating it completely, maybe even except for the bones, this creature leaves most of the body intact, including organs. It just mainly drains the entire blood of an animal. This is, again, very, very unique. Nothing else really has any kind of characteristics associated with that. Also, if you were even unsure, hey, this creature this carcass that was found, let's say another hunted animal from the chupacabra, and its blood was completely drained. If you wanted to be even more certain that it was a chupacabra that did that, another telltale sign involves puncture wounds around the neckline, and these puncture wounds seem to form almost like a triangle shape. Number 6 is this. Even though it's more of along the lines of a canine and it runs like a canine, it has also been known to do this. It's been more bouncing like a kangaroo. There have been some situations associated with that. And this is also including during its hunts and then also its attacks. So in other words, it can move around in a bipedal manner and it jumps around just like a kangaroo. In fact, there was one experience I remember reading where the user stated that they saw this chupacabra leap over a fence. Not a fence, but it was more on the lines of like a barbed wire. And it did it using 2 legs rather than, let's say, 4. So again, very distinct when it comes to that. Number 7 is this. The most common sightings in the U.S., again, here in the U.S. specifically, involve remote, desert, barren-like areas. I was mentioning earlier the popularity of it being in the Southwest. So if you're looking for areas such as Texas, there's a bunch of those sightings here. You can also branch out into other locations such as Arizona, New Mexico, and so on. So look for anything involving like a Wild West, like a lot of deserts, a lot of sand, a lot of dried up areas, mountains, in other words, and that's essentially what this creature does. Interestingly enough, too, it also does its living in other Southern American areas, other countries, like, for example, moving towards rainforests. So anywhere else a little bit south of the U.S., if there's a rainforest involved, there's a good chance that you'll have a chupacabra living there as well. It's quite interesting because it's almost like a dichotomy between the two. Here you have a dry, barren, a desert land, and then you have some of the most richest, wet, foresty type areas around. Number 8 is this. Sightings of this creature, tales associated with it, go back to the older times of America. In fact, it's almost like during the settling days. It's hard to tell any specific example, but this creature definitely does have some history. However, if you wanted to point to a more specific time, a more modern times where things kick-started its sightings, like in other words, once this one sighting occurred, it seemed like it just created a rolling circle of other sightings, almost like a snowball that just kept getting bigger and bigger. You would have to go to 1975, specifically in Puerto Rico. There's an area there called Mocha. That's where one of the most prominent sightings occurred. And then after that, that's when these things just started happening more and more, these specific sightings. The 1975 one was pretty prominent because it was one of those instances where there was a large mass set of killings of animals, like in other words, farm animals that ranchers were finding. And so that's when they decided to name this creature the Vampire of Mocha, again, attributing it to the fact that it likes to suck blood. Number 9 is this. The actual first detailed encounter with this creature, because all those other sightings happened, but they didn't have too many pronounced specific set of examples like here's the chupacabra, here's how it looked like, and so on. The very first one that occurred can be attributed to 1995 from a woman by the name of Madeline Tolentino there in Puerto Rico, once again showcasing the rainforest type area there. But yeah, there at the Puerto Rico area, there was a place called Canovanas. That's when she saw this creature in person. In fact, this was again another mass killing set of farm animals that was occurring. In fact, 150 both farm animals and pets were apparently killed by this single creature. She actually saw it in person, and when that happened, that's when she was able to give the first detailed account of what it looked like. Again, the scaly skin, the spikes, the red eyes, and so on. It was her encounter that is more attributed to the more common sightings, the more universal sightings of the chupacabra. Number 10 is this. The actual name chupacabra was actually coined by a businessman, a guy by the name of Silverio Perez. It turns out that he was the one that, I don't know if he saw the creature directly, but he heard about it within his area, and then all of a sudden it just dawned on him, let's just call it chupacabra. So he created the term. Those incidents again started happening en masse, and then that term actually caught on. People started to talk about it more and reference it more as the chupacabra, and then it's stuck ever since. Talk about a lucky thing with this guy. I don't know if he had a chance to ever trademark or coin it, and he could have definitely done that. Like, he could have copyrighted it, but he didn't, and so that's his loss. But ever since he made that name, that's when it stuck on there. Number 11 is this. Ever since the beginning, even the more modern sightings associated with this creature, there have been controversies tied to it as well. In fact, that same sighting by Madeline that I was mentioning earlier, there was controversy right from the get-go. This was because people noted almost eerily that the way she described the creature looked very similar to the same creature called Syl from the movie Species. This is unique to state because she had apparently just seen the movie within a few weeks' time. And so she saw the creature there, Syl, in Species, and then she saw this chupacabra that, again, her description eerily matches the same creature from the movie Species, and people were like thinking, like, this is too much of a coincidence. They were thinking that maybe she was embellishing things, or she was using the creature from the movie Species to do something else, like more nefarious, like fabricate things. Who knows? But it goes an example again that from the beginning, even the modern sightings, there's controversy with this creature. Number 12 is this. Other things associated with it in terms of controversies is this. Remember, I was mentioning earlier about that lizard-like skin. Well, people have stated, and they're rightfully so in doing this, that this could be attributed to a regular animal, a regular canine, that is just suffering from a condition called mange. This is something that absolutely catches on with many wild animals, wild canines out there. It's that unfortunate condition where it causes their skin to lose its hair. It causes the skin to become brittle, cracked. It looks very disgusting. It looks almost like a lizard type, but it's very diseased. Like, this is not a good condition to have for any of these canines. In fact, if a dog is covered with this mange and it has it around its entire body, it looks almost like a completely different animal. And again, it could give it an almost alien-like appearance, which showcases why people from a distance could attribute it to the chupacabra. It's a very sad condition, though, too, because if a dog is normally in that type of range where the actual mange has covered its entire body, it's not too far in terms of it being gone at that point. It's just these parasites, whatever those are, they're just pretty much eating the dog alive, and so they're causing its skin to go into that horrible, horrible condition, which makes it look like the chupacabra. Number 13 is this. This same mange condition could also explain why the creature primarily hunts ghosts. Like, in other words, canines that are mistaken as chupacabras, why people see them primarily hunt ghosts. And that's because of this. Animals with mange are also, besides having that horrible physical condition that is slowly killing them, it also causes them to be severely weakened. They just aren't up to 100% like they were before in terms of running and then hunting and so on. So they tend to hunt easier prey, and goats tend to fall into that category. So rather than, let's say, chasing a rabbit or chasing a deer, something that again would involve a quick response and it would involve a lot of skill and it has to have the canine be in top form. No way that that's happening with an animal that has mange, so they hunt goats, and goats are much more easier to hunt at that point. Number 14 is this, and as far as, again, also what I was mentioning earlier about multiple holes associated with the neck. Remember I was mentioning that if you want to find if chupacabra is in the vicinity, look for the telltale triangle marks. It turns out that this is also indicative of most regular animal attacks. This is because most animals that hunt and grab its poor victim by the neck tend to do so right there at the same area that a chupacabra would, and so it would cause this almost like the same puncture wounds, and it would have this animal hold on up until the very end, holding as strong as possible the neckline of the poor unfortunate animal that it has within its teeth, and it would cause those same puncture marks. So it may be, again, a mistaken identity. Regular animals doing these type of hunts, they're holding on to the neck, causing the poor animal to essentially suffocate to death, but it causes those puncture wounds that make it seem like it was done by a chupacabra. Number 15 is this. Even though the chupacabra is famous here in the U.S. and in other parts of more southern Americas, there are also other regions that have similar type creatures. For example, also again in the U.S., in New Orleans, there's a creature called the grunch. This is a creature that's located in an area called Grunch Road. In fact, it's a popular lover's lane, an area, in other words, where a lot of people go essentially to be private and make out and so on. But this is a creature that also has very similar characteristics and features of the chupacabra. It just happens to be a completely separate creature altogether. I might do an actual video on this. I never heard of the grunch before, so it'd be interesting to see if I could do a video on it soon. Number 16 is this. In Arkansas, there's another creature that's similar to the chupacabra, but this one is called the howler. This is a creature that has similar chupacabra-like traits, but this is more on the lines of it being a bear. So rather than, let's say, a canine, it's more of a bear, and it has a shaggy coat, and this hair that's on it is gray colored. So stark difference in that case, because there you have the chupacabra that is that is hairless, and the skin itself is just 100% again, reptilian and looking just disgusting. And then here you have this howler that has instead a shaggy coat of hair. Number 17 is this, following again about other regions that have interesting chupacabra-like creatures. This one, though, in Chile, is a creature called the Putin. Hope I'm saying that correctly, the Putin. This is also a creature that tends to suck blood from the animals that it hunts, but it's been more along the lines of, rather than a canine, described as a winged snake. So I don't know how the two can be similar to each other, because a canine and a snake are pretty distinct. They're pretty separate from one another. But yeah, in other words, it still seems to be more along the lines of a chupacabra-like creature somehow. Number 18 is this. Once again, talking about another region with a chupacabra-like creature is this, the Philippines. Apparently they have a creature there by the name of Sick Ben. I think I might have talked about that one before. That one kind of sounds familiar. This also has same characteristics of the chupacabra. If somebody has more info, though, post it in the comments below. I'd love to see those comments and then see if I have talked about it in the past too. But who knows, maybe this one is also a long-lost descendant of the chupacabra itself. Number 19 is this. The popularity of this creature still knows no bounds. Even after its sightings and even after more modern ones, the creature still has as much popularity as ever. In fact, there have been t-shirts that showcase the chupacabra that are sold here and are so popular that they're actually sold overseas as well. There's festivities associated with the chupacabra. There's even movies, cartoons that showcase the creature as well. South Park, for example, had an episode dedicated to the creature, or at least a play on the creature as well. Even Magic the Gathering, the card game, in other words, has a card named after the chupacabra. Remember I was mentioning earlier about that guy, that businessman who coined the term. It's too bad it didn't have anything to do with its copyright or trademark, because all that stuff could essentially have made him some money at the same time. And then finally, number 20 is this. If you ever wanted to know what the official stance of the Wildlife Management Department here in the U.S. and then also other government officials and other types of authorities is this. This creature has been officially listed as an urban legend. So it kind of gives it in that gray area where it's not false, but it's not true at the same time. It's just more evidence needs to be gathered in order to do that. And in fact, there has been no definitive proof yet found, but still reported sightings, eyewitnesses. There's some examples that I've read as well where people find the creature, in other words, like the carcass associated with it, but it turns out to just be a regular canine, once again, just covered in mange and so on. So yeah, the official stance is it's gray. It's in that gray area where, who knows, someday somebody could actually find the creature still living, have it not be another canine, but instead be the real deal, the chupacabra, and then that'll elevate things to the next level. But that's pretty much it. What do you guys think? 20 things you didn't know about the chupacabra. Anybody has any more info? Anything else I might have missed? Please post those comments below. All right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care. Bye.